Here we go.
That's so Andrew.
It's the future I can see.
That's so Andrew.
It's so mysterious to me.
I like that. That's so Andrew.
It's the future I can see.
That's so Andrew.
It's so mysterious to me. Yeah. Yep, that's me.
Ooh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Hello. Wait, give me a second. Can I be heard? Can you guys hear me? Spoopy and dark. Yes, very dark. Which is why I'm trying to fix everything. Give me a second. Maybe having this on will help. There you go. Pretty sure that helped a little bit. Right? Wouldn't you say so? Ooh, we've got a nice, cozy fire here today. Is that the rain in the background? What do you mean? Oh, that's not the rain. That's my fan. Is that better? You guys can't hear the rain anymore? Hello everybody and welcome to a stream. A stream where we share scary stories. Now, I am somebody who is a connoisseur of scary stories. As you may all know, I have a podcast. It's called The Frightening, Alarming, Real Life Tale Show. Again, it's called The Frightening, Alarming, Real Life Tales Show. So, that's short for farts. That stands for... Wait, what? Farts is short for The Frightening, Alarming, Real Life Tale Show. So the tighter version of it would be farts. So yeah, we are going to be reading scary stories tonight. And now some of you guys, especially in Discord, have submitted your very own scary stories. And I am just getting my phone charged before we start reading. So how is everybody? Actually, it's more like Frightening Alien Real Life Tale Show. Excuse me. I mean, it's true, but like we didn't need to say that out loud. That didn't need to be a conversation today. That the past a majority of the episodes we've been talking about aliens. Anyway, wait, give me a second. I'm trying to make sure like the red is like, there you go. Isn't that because this one is not giving fire. Maybe if I put it on this side. Give me a second. I'm like trying to see where I can put the fire. Is that more of a fire? Is this cute? Is this nice? I didn't think so. He's screaming during Little Nightmares? Really, Elsie? Screaming during Little Nightmares? It's scary for you? Oh my god. Anyway, there you go. No. I'm not satisfied with that. Give me a second. Let's pop out activity feed. I think that will make it easier for me. There you go. Wait, why is the music now cute? No, why are you, you're not supposed to be cute. You're supposed to be scary. There you go. Thank you. All right. All right. So you guys have sent over your stories over at Discord, and if you want to know what my Discord server is, it's right here, Discord. So yeah, I am going to read out some of the scary stories that you guys have submitted. So now, some of you guys made your own scary story, and some of you guys actually submitted, well, I submitted a bunch of scary stories that I wanted to share for the next episode. So, we got here some sent by Waffle. There's a bunch of mine from Reddit. I was hoping that some like Tirso would send something, but I guess he didn't. Anyway. Alright. So, if you would like to hear more scary stories, and this time, scary stories that actually happen in real life. So, these are all fiction. Might I suggest you go listen to the Frightening Alarming Real Life Tale Show. Sorry, I got caught up with work. I sent out the request like at the start of the month. I sent it at like October 7th. I asked everybody October 7th to come and visit and give me a letter.
Hi Tops. It's nearly been 2 years, whoop whoop. Oh no, it's supposed to be scary. Little did he know 2 years was the time it took for the blood ritual to be completed.
Hello, Remy. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Oh, I have the activity feed. It's right here on the side. I'm stupid. Okay. Give me a sec. I'm trying to like... Let's see. Can we... Let's pop this out. There, that should help. There you go. Okay. I don't need to see the views. It's fine. Alright. Alright, so this first story is by Waffle. Waffle King of Pluto. Or, yeah, Waffle King of Pluto. And it's called Tops's Story, Part 1. What happened at the dentist? Oh, that's... The dentist is a little scammy. I got mad about the dentist the other day, because the dentist is annoying. Anyway. Right. Okay, alright. Let's just stop for a second, because here's what happened. The dentist asked Tirso to give her an x-ray of his mouth or whatever. Right? And so he does. And then while the dentist was... First of all, the dentist was late to the appointment. Apparently she had to go somewhere. And then when it was time, while the dentist was like, I don't know, doing something with Tirso's teeth, apparently she spotted that he needed a root canal for one of his molars, and she kind of like, in the spur of the moment, asked Tirso if he wanted to go through with the root canal, which kind of gave Tirso not like, he felt pressured to say yes or something like that. He didn't give Tirso the time to think about the what it would mean if he went through with it. And so now I'm not sure if she... Oh, see, look, he's not even sure if she asked. So she literally was just like, she said, I need it to be root canaled. See, like, it's so scammy. So now he has to pay like what, 15,000 pesos just just for the fucking root canal. And I'm so mad because like the dentist didn't even give him enough time to decide whether it was something that he could afford or not. And the thing is, anyway, I don't want to get into the money, but let's just say it's really annoying. So yeah, that's what happened at the dentist. All right. So this is called Tops's Story, Part 1. Out of the Darkness. 66 years ago, a young boy wandered, lost and confused, deep in a dark and rather dead forest in the middle of the night. The trees were bare and the ground was black. The lantern the boy had gave off little light. Darkness consumed this area. Cold and hungry, the boy arrives at a small mansion. One window on the second floor had the flickering of a candle, signs someone may be inside. The young boy nervously knocked on the door. There was no answer. He knocked a little harder this time. Still, there was no answer. He stepped back, looked towards the window, and yelled, "Hey! Is someone in there? I'm lost and hungry." Still, no one replied. Hold on, I'm reading this off of my phone. I want to make it like story time. Hold on, give me a second. How's that? Does that look like story time to you? Alright. I wish I had like a book. You know what? Let's get a book. I want it to look like we're reading off of like a book. I got here a little book, right? What book are you gonna use? Oh, are you gonna use Twilight? No, I'm so sorry. All my Twilight books are gone. I fucking knew it. I knew it. I knew where that was going. Like, it's so predictable. Alright, here you go. Let's have a book. Alright. I want to make sure like the book can be seen. Like let's tilt it a little down. There you go. Maybe tilt a little up. Like that looks too weird. Alright. How about this? Do I still sound fine? I'm gonna put it like this. Okay. The boys sat at the door thinking that maybe the person inside is asleep and left their candle lit. Hi Lavender, welcome to the stream. We are reading spooky stories. Where are we? I'm lost. I lost track. I don't know where we are. Hold on. Also, wait. I want you guys to see the book. Okay. I should have prepared for this better. But I didn't. Now here we are. Let me just get like pillows. That should make me taller. There you go. That made me taller. Wow, you were playing Counter-Strike. I haven't played that in ages. That game is so old. Alright. There you go. That looks better. Is my voice fine? Is it okay? Let me know if it's weird or if I sound a little far away. Suddenly, the boy heard screaming coming from the forest. Competitive convenience store shopping, and whoever reaches the counter wins. Wait, where was I? Shoot. I'm lost again. Suddenly, the boy heard screaming coming from the forest. The boy rose to his feet, shaking in fear. The screams began to get louder and louder as if it was coming towards him. He looked up at the window. It was dark. The light was gone. The boy began banging on the door, begging for help. The screams were getting louder and louder until they became deafening. The boy turned around and saw a red light heading towards him. He could feel the ground start to shake, and the wind was blowing hard. The boy knew he had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. He was strapped. He sat down, burying his head in his lap, and praying that whatever it was would go away. Honestly, same. Same. like, like I wish, like I could just like sit down and pray that whatever was coming towards me is gone. All right. Suddenly there was silence. The boy looked up slowly and saw rays of sunlight. No mansion, no red light, just dead trees, black grass, and sunlight. By his foot, he saw a small wooden boy. He also noticed that it was positioned sitting and pointing at something behind the boy. A tree. A living tree. The only thing alive in this forest. The boy walked to the tree, and as soon as he touched it, he was gone. Then, the tree began to die, and the last leaf to fall, landing on the wooden boy. The wooden boy arose and walked out of the forest, not once looking back. Oh. So that was Waffle King's story. It was called, whatchamacallit? It was called Out of the Darkness. Ooh, interesting. Scary. Ooh. I like that story. Like, it was just a vibe. Not once, not twice. Right. I love that. So actually, Waffle like gave a lot of stories today, but we're gonna space them out. Okay, so we've read the first Waffle story, and now we're gonna read something that I found from our No Sleep. So this one is called I'm scared. Hi Void. Hi Hollow Void. Welcome to the stream. This is our No Sleep. Something walks whistling past my house every midnight at 3:03. Have I read this before? Tweez sounds like plucking a split end. The scary thing there was the split end. Alright. Every night, no matter the weather, something walks down our street whistling softly. You can only hear it if you're in the living room or the kitchen when they walk by, and it always starts at exactly 3:03. The sounds start faint, somewhere near the beginning of the lane near the Carson place. We're towards the middle of the street, so the whistling moves past us before fading away in the direction of the cul-de-sac. It took me a while to know what a cul-de-sac was. I didn't know that a cul-de-sac was like, you know, at the end of the road where it's like a little circular, like, area of houses. You know, like in those shows, or like, have you guys seen Santa Clarita Diet? Yeah, apparently that's a cul-de-sac. But fact check me on that because I haven't studied. I don't know what a cul-de-sac is. Okay, cul-de-sac. A street or passage that is closed at one end. Who is that guy behind you? Ooh, scary. Behind you. Okay. All right. When I was younger, my sister and I would sneak into the kitchen some nights to listen. Mom and Dad didn't like that we'd watch. Didn't like that and we'd catch hell if they found us out. But they were never too hard on us since we always stuck to the one big rule. Don't try to look at whatever was whistling. That's Jack, I think. Ooh. Could you imagine while I'm just reading, like, somebody just behind me just, like, sneaks up? Isn't that scary? Yee. Alright. Oh, if you don't know who Jack is, you better be listening to the frightening, alarming real-life tale show. Then you'll find out who Jack Wells is. Jack Wells is like the big bad of the podcast. And this Sunday, I will be going head to head with Jack Wells in a duel to free one of our co-hosts, Ade. All right. Oh, Tirso doesn't live with me, so and he doesn't he can't sneak up on me and scare me. If that's what you're thinking. All right. My neighborhood is a funny place. I've lived here since I was 6 and I love it. The houses are small but well kept. Good sized yards, plenty of spaces to roam. There are a lot of other kids here my age, and I turned 13 back in October. We grew up together and would always play foursquare in the cul-de-sac or roam around from back porch to back porch in the summer. This was a good place to grow up. I'm old enough to see it. And there's only the two strange things here, the night whistling and the good luck. The whistling never bothered me much. Like I said, I couldn't even hear it from my bedroom. But Mom and Dad don't like talking about it, so I've stopped asking questions. My dad is a strong guy, tall and calm. He has an accent since he moved to the US as a kid. His family and my grandparents, they're from the islands. That's what they call it. My dad, the only time he isn't so calm is if the whistler comes up. He talks a little quicker then, eyes move faster, and he tells us not to think about it so much and to always remember that one rule, the big rule. Don't try to look outside when the whistler goes past. Not that we could even look if we wanted. See, there are shutters on the inside of every window. Thick pieces of heavy canvas that pull down from the top latch to the bottom of the window frame. Each latch even has a small lock, about the size of what you'd find on a diary. My dad locks those shutters every night, and we all go to bed and keeps the key in his room. My dad locks those shutters every night before we all go to bed and keeps the key in his room. My mom, I didn't know what she thinks about the whistling. I've seen her out in the living room before 3:03, and when the sound starts, I could see her. If I crack my door open just an inch to peek, she's not out there often. At least, I haven't caught her much, but once or twice a month, I think she sits out there on the big red couch, just listening. The whistler has the same tune every night. It's cheerful. Da 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 dum, da 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 dum. Remember how I said there are two odd things about where I live? Well, besides our night whistler, everyone in my neighborhood is really lucky. It's hard to explain, and my dad doesn't like us talking about this part much either. But good things seem to happen to people around here a lot. Usually it's small things like winning a radio contest or getting an unexpected promotion at work or finding some arrowheads buried in the backyard. You know, the authentic kind. The suburbia is inherently creepy without the supernatural. That is true. That is true. That is very true. Like living in the suburbs is like weird. It's just there are no shops. Everyone's asleep after 6, or like nobody goes out after 6. Like that's so scary. We moved into our house here to be closer to the hospital. Oh wait, shoot. The weather is pretty good. And there is no crime, and everybody's gardens bloom extra bright in the fall. A million little blessings, I've heard my mom say about living here. But the main reason we stay here, why we moved here in the first place, is my sister Nola. She was born very sick, something with her lungs. We couldn't even bring her home when she was born. Only visit her in the hospital. She was so small. I remember small even compared to the other babies. A machine had to breathe for her. OMG, it's Hazel Grace. Is this the Fault in Our Stars? We moved into our house here to be closer to the hospital, and as soon as we moved here, Nola started getting better. Doctors couldn't figure out. They chalked it up to whatever they were doing, but we all could tell that they were confused. But my parents knew. Even I knew. Nola was getting better. Nola getting better was just another of the million little blessings that we got for living in our neighborhood. So that's why we stayed here, even after we found out that for every small miracle that happens here, every day, now and then, some bad things happened. Some bad things happen, but they only happen if you look for the Whistler. Skip to the part where oh, Jesus. See, our neighborhood has a welcoming committee. They show up with macaroni cheese casserole and a gift basket and a manila folder whenever someone new moves in. They were very friendly. 4 people showed up when we moved in 7 years ago. The committee made small talk, gave me a Snickers bar, and took turns holding Nola. It was her first week out of the hospital, so they were a little extra careful. Then the committee asked to speak to my parents in private, so I was sent to my room where I still managed to hear nearly every word. The welcoming committee told my parents about how nice the neighborhood was, really exceptionally hard to explain, kind of nice, and then they told my parents about the ever harder to explain whistling that happened every morning at 3:03 and ended at the tick of 3:05. The group, our new neighbors, warned my parents that the whistling was quiet, would never harm us or hurt us as long as we didn't look at what was making the sound. This part they stressed, and I pushed my ear into the door, straining to hear them. People who went looking for the whistler had their luck change, sometimes tragically. A black cloud would hang over anyone that looked. Anything that could go wrong would. The manila envelope the committee bought over contained newspaper clippings, stories about car crashes and ruined lives, public deaths, and freak accidents. Not everyone dies, I heard the head of the committee tell my dad, but the life goes out of them. Even if they live, there's no light in them ever again. No presence. Sounds like hereditary evil stuff? Kinda. Alright, my mom, I could tell she wasn't taking it seriously. She kept asking if this was some prank they play on new neighbors. At one point, my mom got angry, accused the committee of trying to scare us out of our new home, and asked them if they were racist on the account of my dad being from the islands. My dad calmed her down, told her that he could tell our new neighbors were sincere, since they were just trying to help us. He explained that he grew up hearing these kinds of stories from his mom, and that he knew that there were strange things that walked among us. Among us. Among us. Oh my God. Some of those strange things were good, and some were bad, but most were just different. After the committee left, Dad went out of the hardware store Went out to the hardware store, bought the canvas blinds, the latches, and the locks, and installed every one of them on every window in the house after dinner. That first night in our new home, I crept out of my room at 3 a.m., only to find my dad awake, sitting on the living room couch, holding my baby sister. My dad held up his finger in a shh motion, but patted the couch next to him, and I sat and we waited. At exactly 3:03, we heard the whistling. It came and it went just like our neighbors said. The whistlings return each night and we never looked. And we enjoy our million little blessings every day. Nola breathes on her own and she's grown into a strong, clever girl. My dad even joined the welcoming committee. We don't get new neighbors often. Why would anyone want to leave? But when a new family moves in, my dad and the committee bring them macaroni casserole, a gift basket, and the manila folder. You can always tell by the look on my dad's face when he comes back if the family took the committee seriously or if we'd be getting new neighbors again very, very soon. Not long ago, a family moved in directly next to us. The previous owner, Miss Maddie, passed away at the age of 105. She lived a good long life. Our new neighbors seemed like they'd fit in just fine. They believed the welcoming committee took my dad's advice about locking shutters, about the locking shutters since they had a young child of their own. Whatever newspaper clippings were in that manila envelope, whatever evidence my dad never let us see. But I imagine it must have been awfully convincing since our neighbors got along with no issues for the first month. One night, when our new neighbors had to leave town, they sent their son Holden to stay with us. He was 12, a year under me in school. I didn't know him well that night, but as soon as his parents dropped him off after dinner, I could tell it was going to be a bad time.
Do you know who's always out there whistling every night?
Holden asked the moment the adults left the room. The three of us were sitting in the den, some Disney movie playing idly on the television. My sister and I exchanged a glance.
We don't talk about that,
I said.
I think it's that weirdo that lives in the big yellow house in the corner,
Holden said.
Mr. Tolls?
My sister asked.
No way. He's really nice.
Holden shrugged.
Must be a psycho killer then.
Nola tensed.
We don't talk about it,
I repeated.
Let's go in my room and play Nintendo.
We spent the next few hours playing games, eating popcorn, and then watching movies. A typical sleepover, but I could see Holden was getting antsy. After my parents had wished us good night, locked the blinds, and gone to bed, Holden stood up from his beanbag and walked over to where Nola and I were sitting on the bed.
Have you ever tried looking? He asked. It's nearly time.
Like most sleepovers, we'd conveniently ignored any suggestion of a bedtime. I was shocked to see he was right. It was almost 3 a.m.
We didn't. See, I can't even try to look because my dad locks the blinds every night and hides the key,
he continued, ignoring me.
So does our dad,
said Nola.
No, he doesn't. You saw him do it,
I said, a little sharper than I meant to sound. Holden grinned.
Your dad locks the blinds, yeah, but he doesn't hide the key. He keeps it right on his normal keychain.
So? I asked, worried I already knew what he would say next, because I had noticed that my dad didn't bother hiding the key anymore after all of these years, because he knew we took it seriously.
So, after your dad locked up before your parents went to bed, I went to the bathroom, and on my way, I may have peeked into their room, and I may have seen your dad's keychain on his nightstand, and I maybe went and borrowed the key to the blinds.
Nola and I stared, and his grin only grew wider.
You're lying.
I said. Holden shrugged.
You can check if you want. Just open your parents' door and look. You'll see his keychain right there on the nightstand.
Stay right here, I told both of them. Don't move a muscle. I hurried over to my parents' room, but hesitated at the door. If Holden wasn't lying, I need to adjust my seat. I'm sorry, like it was making me uncomfortable. Okay, hold on. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? If Holden wasn't lying, my dad would be angry. Beyond angry. I was scared thinking about it. But more scared of an open window with a whistler right outside. I opened the door, barely an inch, and looked. But it was too dark to see. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the room. 2 steps into the dark and I froze. The whistling started, and I could hear it clearly from my parents' room. I never realized, but they must have heard the sound every night since we moved into the house. They never told us. I don't think I could have slept through it. I stood there, listening to the whistling come closer, unsure whether I should turn on a light or call out to my dad. Soft sounds from the living room brought me back to reality. Nola! I yelled, running out of my parents' room. Holden and Nola were standing near the front door next to the window. Holden wasn't lying. I could see him fumbling with the lock in one of the blinds. I heard a click. He didn't have the key. He did have the key. Holden let out a quick laugh. Nola stood next to him, hunched up, afraid but maybe curious. The whistling was right outside our house now. I think I made a sound. I called out. I can't remember. Time felt frozen. Clock hands nailed to the face, but I found myself moving. I'm not fast. I've never been athletic. Somehow, though, I covered the space between myself and Nola in a moment. My eyes were locked on her, but I heard Holden pull up the blind all the way down so it could release. I heard the snap of it start to raise, and I heard the whistling just on the other side of the window. But I had my arms around Nola, and I turned us so she was facing away from the window. At the same time, I jammed my eyes shut. The blind whipped open. The whistling stopped. I felt Nola shake in my arms. Don't look, okay? Don't turn around. We were positioned so that she was facing back towards the hallway. And I was facing the window. My eyes were still closed. I felt her nod into my shoulder. I reached out the arm, not holding Nola, and tried to touch Holden. My hand brushed against his arm. He was shaking worse than Nola. Holden? I asked. Silence. I reached past him and gingerly felt for the window. My eyes still sealed shut. The glass was cold against my fingertips, colder than it should have been for the time of the year. I moved my hand up the window, searching for the string to the blind. The glass began to get warmer the further I reached, and there was a gentle hum feeding back into my fingertips. I tried not to think about what might be on the other side of the window. Finally, I touched the string and yanked the blind shut. I opened my eyes. The dim light leaked out of the kitchen. I could make out Holden, pale and small, staring at the now closed window. Holden? I asked again. He turned towards me and screamed. Everything became a flurry of motion. Lights sparked into life in the hall, then the living room. My parents' footsteps thudded across the hardwood floor. I didn't turn to look back at them. My eyes were glued to Holden. He was pale, had bit his lips so hard that that there was a thin red line of blood running down his chin and he'd wet himself. "What happened?" my dad asked from behind me. I managed to swivel away from Holden and look back.
He looked. He looked.
I had never seen my dad scared before, but I saw that in that night, in that moment, an old, ugly terror stitched on his face, my parents' fear. "Just Holden?" he mouthed to me. I nodded yes. My dad let out a breath. He looked so relieved. I nearly expected him to cheer, but then he turned to Holden and my dad's face changed. I wondered if he felt bad for feeling good that Holden was the only one that looked. There was a knock at the door. We all froze. Holden whimpered.
"Don't answer it,"
my mom said. She stood at the threshold of the hall. I'd always thought she was a skeptic and just humored my dad about the windows and the whistler, but that night we were all believers. I noticed that both of my parents held baseball bats they must have taken from their bedroom. And the knock came again, a little louder this time.
"Please don't open the door,"
Holden whispered. My dad walked over to him, hugged him close. "We won't," my dad promised, still holding his bat. "Nothing is coming in here tonight." Thud, thud, thud. "Call the police," my mom whispered to my dad. The knocking instantly stopped. My dad looked over his shoulder at us. "Do you think?" He was cut off by the frantic knocking that trailed off to a polite tap, tap, tap.
"Police?"
Said something from the other side of the door. A voice from outside sounded exactly like my mom, like a parrot repeating the words back to her.
"Police? Call the police." "The police?
My mom pulled us closer.
Police? 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 Please stop."
I heard her whisper. "I don't think calling them will help," my dad said. "How will we know when they're the ones at the door?" The knocking came back harder than before. The door shook, then it stopped. After a long moment, I heard the knocking again, but it was coming from our back door. We all turned together towards the back door, but the knocking immediately returned to the front door. Front to back, back to front, loud then quiet then loud again. Suddenly the sound was coming from both doors at once, big, heavy blows like a sledgehammer. Then something started rapping against all of the windows in the house, then the walls. It was like we were living inside a drum with a dozen people trying to play at once, or we were a turtle or something that was attempting or that we were a turtle and something was attempting to claw us out of our shell. "Stop!" Holden yelled. The knocking died.
"I won't tell," Holden said, staring at the door. "I promise I won't tell anyone what I saw. Just please go away."
We waited for nearly a minute. Then we heard it, a soft tap, tap, tap coming from the window. It was the window that Holden had looked through earlier. Holden started crying, sobbing like a prisoner, watching gallows being built outside their cell. My dad held him, brushed his hair, but never lied to him, never told him things would be okay. The tapping at the window went for the rest of the night. We huddled together in the living room for I don't know how long. Eventually, my mom tried to take us kids into my room, while my dad stayed to watch the door. But the second we moved into the bedroom, the knocking came back, so loud it was impossible to ignore. I was afraid that the door couldn't take it. We went back to the living room and the knocking stopped. Only the tap, tap, tap on the window remained. None of us slept that night. The tapping stopped at around 7 a.m. That's about the time the sun comes up here. We waited another 2 hours before my dad opened the blinds from one window. He made us all go back to my parents' bedroom first. I heard him open the door then come back in. "Okay," he told us, "it's done." Holden's parents came back at around lunchtime. My mom and dad walked Holden over to his house and they all went inside for quite a while. Nola and I watched from the window. She stuck to me the whole day, right at my side, sometimes holding my hand. When my parents came back, they looked grim, but they wouldn't tell us what they said to Holden's family. It was a Sunday, so we all spent the day together, ordering pizza and watching movies. Sorry, that was a weird, That was weird. Okay. That night, everyone slept in my room. Nola and my mom in the bed with me, and my dad in a chair he pulled over. There was no knocking that night or any night since. We didn't see much of Holden or his parents for the rest of that week, but by Thursday there was a moving truck in their driveway. Nola and I watched them packing up the whole afternoon after school. What sticks me the most is how tired Holden and his parents looked. All three had the same pallid, grim mouths and laser and lightless eyes. Even from across the street, I could tell something was very wrong. Holden and his family were gone before sunset. I remember what the original welcoming committee said to my parents when they moved in. Not everyone who looks at the Whistler dies, but even those that have the light out go what? But even those that have the light go out of them, and the rest of their lives are full of misfortune, a million little tragedies. I think Holden's parents must have looked, either to comfort him if they didn't believe, or to share the burden if they did. I watched Nola some days, happy, young and alive, and I wonder if I'd be slower if she'd look out the window that night. Would I have looked too? To comfort her? To share that burden? I'm so glad I don't have to find out. We still live in that house, in that neighborhood. We still hear our Whistler walking past every night. The blessings, the luck, the good things here are too good to leave. But we're careful. We don't have friends over to spend the night anymore, and my dad hides the key to the blinds very, very well. Not that I've gone looking. Some things you just don't need to look for. And that was... They really need to put the title at at the end of the story. That was Something Walks Whistling Past My House Every Night at 3:03 by the Grand... What's his name? The Grand Theft Moto. That little shit. That little shit. I have no sympathy for Holden. Yeah, that's... I kind of like Holden, bruh. Why? Why would you do that? All right. So that was a cool story. I like that. I actually read that before during my time when I was looking for like stories to read on Reddit on stream. I wanted to read some stories, so I found that one. I actually like that one. That one gave me chills up my spine. And yeah, Holden, that annoying little brat. Like, who goes out looking? Just, it's annoying. He annoyed me. He was like, ugh, ugh. Anyway, I'm gonna put the book down because it's hurting my arms, like it's hurting my fingers. I need to hold it like this, but I can't hold it like this for long because I need like rest. I need arm rests, and I don't have arm rests on my chair. All right, let's read another Waffle King Pluto original. And this one's called Reality Unknown. I wake up in a hospital. I have no idea why I'm here. I don't feel sick. All my body parts seem present. I look around. No one is here. Did everyone leave? Was I forgotten? The outside is too bright to see. I hear children. Were they left behind too? I'm walking down the hallway. The sound of children playing gets louder. Here, the room the children's voices are coming from. Here, the room the children's voices are coming from. The glass in the door is cloudy, but I can see the silhouette of two children. I open the door. Oh, sorry. I open the door. No one is here, but I still hear them in this room. Let me just move the microphone a little bit. I turn around. The janitor?
Where did he come from? Wait. He hits me, knocks me out. I hear the buzzing of the fluorescent bulbs. Now I hear cars. I wake up in an apartment, a very fancy and expensive one. Was that a dream? Is this one? I don't recognize this place. Do I really live here? No pictures, no wallet or ID. Did I get crazy drunk and just don't remember? That's what rich people do, right? Maybe I'll wash my face and think of where to go from here. I'm roaming around looking for the bathroom. I find it and wash my face, then look in the mirror. Slowly, everything starts moving. It's moving faster now. I'm flying through my reflection over and over, and yet I don't feel like I'm moving. Am I on some kind of drug? Rich people do drugs, right? Well, poor people do too. Maybe this is another dream. Or is this the first dream and the hospital is real? Someone opens the door, an old, wealthy-looking man with a shotgun. Wait, tell me who I am. He shot me. Everything is black. I hear dripping water. I wake up again. How did I survive that? Was it another dream? Where am I now? I'm in a jail cell. Was that not a dream? Am I here because of the man? I don't have a scar or wound from the shot. Seems like no one is here. I'll call for someone. I have no voice. What now? Guess I'll sleep. I feel tired. I fall asleep. Water drips on my forehead. I wake up. I'm in the woods. How did I get here? I'm going crazy. Which of these is real? Wait, I hear dogs barking and they don't sound friendly. I run, then fall. My feet are shackled. Is it because I escaped prison? Was that a memory? I'll try to run again. The barking is getting closer. I fall this time. I keep falling. A tree. I'm going to hit it, but I can't stop rolling down the hill. I hit my head first. Unconscious again. This time, no sound. But I'm awake. No light. But total darkness. Am I dead? I smell dirt. I'm trying to move. I'm in a box. Wait, I can't breathe. There's no air. I pass out. I wake up again, back in the hospital. It's the same as before, except someone else is here. It's me. That was Reality Unknown. Yeah, that was an okay story, you know. It was different. It was different. He was like he kept dying or something. Wait, give me a second. Let me adjust my chair. It wasn't as thrilling as Holden's stupid mistake. True. I mean, like, yeah, I'm guessing, like, I guess it could do a little bit more, you know, like a little bit more workshopping, but that was an okay story. It wasn't like bad or anything. It was okay. Okay. Let's read another story. Oh, this one. I like this one. When I read this, I got like such a big chill running down my spine because of it. Are you ready? So this is from Our No Sleep, and it's called My Wife Has Been Peeking at Me from Around Corners and Behind Furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. My wife Lynn and I have been together for 6 years and married for 11 months. Our entire history together has been very normal, and never once have I noticed any weird behaviors or red flags. I can't stress enough about how out of character this whole thing is for her. This sounds familiar? Lynn is very kind, intelligent, and thoughtful. She's always been the no-nonsense type of person. Being childish or trying to scare me is not something she'd normally do. She doesn't even like watching horror movies. When we first started dating, she agreed to watch The Shining with me because she knew how much I loved horror. She was so scared that I didn't even make it...
She was so scared that she didn't even make it through half the movie before we had to turn it off. She isn't into anything creepy and has never been into pranks. It's just not her cup of tea, and that's fine, but that's what was so strange about this. It's just so unlike her. I should also add that she never had any mental health issues, and as far as I'm aware, it doesn't run in her family. I know some people are able to hide their mental health problems, but in the 6 years we've been together, I think I'd have seen some sort of sign. 2 months ago, I was in the kitchen making myself some coffee before work. I was running a bit late that morning and knew I wouldn't be able to make it to Dunkin' Donuts for my usual morning coffee fix. I took a sip of my coffee and I hurried down the hall towards the front door when I happened to notice Lynn peeking at me from around the corner ahead of me. I could see her eyes and a strand of her long dark hair hanging against the wall. The rest of her body was concealed behind the corner. I nearly spilled my coffee when I saw her. I did burn the shit out of my lips. "Geez, Lynn," I said, wiping a few drops of coffee from my pants. "You scared the shit out of me." She immediately popped out of the view like a little kid that had just been caught. I heard her scurry off towards the living room, and by the time I got to the front door, she was out of sight. I know this story. This gave me chills. Ooh, really? You do? It was really weird. And it was just totally out of character for her, like I said. But I also found it kind of funny that she was being more playful and then a little less serious. I shouted that I loved her and called her a weirdo. As I shut the door behind me, I heard her laughing. Her behavior was a bit odd, but it certainly wasn't something that I could call a priest over. I forgot about it by lunch, and by the time I got home, she was her normal self, and I didn't bring it up, and neither did she, and life went on. The next incident happened 3 days later. It was around 2 a.m., and I had woken up to get a drink. I was standing in the kitchen island, jug of OJ in hand, when I felt a strong feeling that I was being watched. For whatever reason, I looked down at the floor and saw my wife's smiling face staring back. She was peeking at me from the other side of the island, staring up at me with wide, unblinking eyes, and grinning like the Cheshire Cat. I screamed, I'll admit it, not out of irritation but fear. For some reason, at that moment, I was scared. At the sound of my scream, Lynn scuttled backwards out of my view, her hands and feet smacking the tile floor as she hurried out of the kitchen at all fours. I didn't run after her, or even yell after her. I just stood there, frozen in shock, wondering what the fuck possessed her to do that. It took me a little longer than I'd like to admit to go back upstairs, but I eventually did, and when I got back to our bedroom, Lynn was lying on her side, asleep, or at least pretending to be. I stood there for a while, watching her breathing to be sure she was really asleep. I had a feeling that she might jump out at me the moment I got into bed, but she didn't. I climbed into the bed, and she didn't even move. Her breathing was soft and deep, and I was starting to wonder if I had dreamt the whole thing. The next morning, I waited for her to come down for coffee, and after handing her a mug and kissing her, I decided to ask her about it. "What was that about last night?" I asked, keeping my tone light so I didn't offend or embarrass her. She frowned over her cup of coffee, shaking her head like she had no clue what I was referring to. "You were peeking at me again, from over there," I said, pointing to the spot on the floor by the kitchen island. She followed my gaze, and when she looked back at me, she burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that I couldn't help but join her. "You creep me the fuck out sometimes, you know that?" I said. She giggled and set her cup on the counter, and she wrapped her arms around my neck. "You creep me out all the time, so I guess we're even," she teased. I love how she didn't deny what happened, so she must know it's happening. Anyway. We said our goodbyes and I left for work. As I drove, I kept thinking about how creepy it had been seeing her grinning at me from behind the island like that. The sounds of her hands made the floor as she crawled away. I told myself that she was just trying to be silly. like just girl things, just silly girl things. Just trying to join me in my love of all things horror. It's not like I was afraid of her, but it still didn't sit right with me. I started seeing her peeking at me more and more. Sometimes she'd be peeking out from behind the couch or living room curtains. She's just being a little silly bean. Like a little silly bean. Sometimes she'd be peeking out from behind the couch or living room curtains. Once she even managed to get inside her grandmother's old trunk that sits at the foot of our bed. I might not have even known that she was there at all had the trunk's old hinges not given her away. She had the lid propped up just enough so that only half of her face peeked through. She'd been grinning like an excited toddler, and it was unnerving. I didn't even know what to say to her. All I could do was stare. When I finally found my voice, I asked her why on earth was she doing this. She didn't answer, but she had slowly closed the lid, shutting herself inside the trunk. I just walked away, feeling disturbed. I would just ignore her. Like I would join her or whatever. Like, damn. Like if she's trying to creep me out, I would try my best to creep her out as well. Like I would stare back at her and I would just I would just do that. I would just stare at her and then just stare. Sorry, I tried to write something scary, but it turned into a Killer X reader real fast. What? Really? Love that. Alright, let's continue the story. I didn't understand why she was doing it, but it clearly made her happy. I just hoped that she would tire of the game quickly. Lynn didn't peek for me for the next 2 weeks. I started to think that she was done with her weird prank, and I was relieved. We were watching a show on Netflix one night, and I jokingly said that I hadn't seen her peeking at me lately, and that she must have given up on her spy game. She looked up at me with a small smile and said, "Maybe I've just gotten better at it." Damn, they gave me chills. I didn't say anything, but I wondered whether or not she was joking. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about what she'd said. Was she still peeking at me when I wasn't looking and I just hadn't noticed? And if so, what the hell was she getting out of all of this? I started to feel paranoid, constantly checking whether she was checking or watching me from around the corner or behind a door. I was jumpy whenever I was at home and she wasn't in full view of me. I felt stupid and a little crazy. But after a few weeks without another incident, I began to relax. I stopped checking behind furniture and walls and told myself that it was just all a bad memory. Then a few days ago, things got much worse. Lynn left to go to a friend's, and I lounged on the couch and played a couple of games on my laptop. Around 9 p.m., I hopped in the shower, and as I was washing the soap from my hair, I felt that awful feeling that I was being watched. I slowly opened my eyes and almost had a fucking heart attack. Lynn was peeking from behind the shower curtain, her entire head stretched into the shower, leaving her body just outside. Her long dark hair hung against the curtain, ends dripping with water. Her mouth hung open with a terrible grin, eyes wide and red, as if she hadn't blinked in a while. I screamed and jumped back against the wall. She didn't move, nor did her smile waver. Her makeup ran down her cheeks in 2 black streaks. She looked giddy and completely deranged. I was fucking terrified. We stood like that for a few moments, neither of us saying a word. Finally, after what felt like forever, she slowly pulled her head back out of the shower, and I watched her blurry figure through the curtain as she moved backwards towards the bathroom door. A second later, the bathroom door slammed shut, hard enough to rattle the mirror. I screamed again and jumped out of the shower to lock the door. I stayed inside the bathroom for over an hour. Maybe I overreacted to some of you, but joke or not, I wasn't going to put up with the crazy shit anymore. That's what I kept telling myself as I paced around in the bathroom, stopping to listen to the door every few minutes. Suddenly, I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I do hate the story for the scary stuff. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own house. Oh.
We just got rated. Hey, Blue Sky Robin and 6 viewers.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Denma. All the space slugs and all the space holes. Why does that sound like a spell about getting my space hole, like, stuffed with space slugs? Denma likes her holes. What? Hello, hi Raiders, welcome to the stream. If you're new here, my name is Andy, and we are currently playing... we're not playing. We are currently reading scary stories off of Reddit, and I've got a few scary stories that a viewer submitted. Topsilog submitted. His name is Waffle King Pluto. I don't think he's here today. I think he's just waking up, or he's busy with work or whatever. But yeah, we're reading his stories tonight, and also we're reading some of my favorite stories off of Reddit. I gravitate to all the holes. What is in the water in Australia? Denma, are you good? Is something in the water in Australia? You know, like in the... Something's in the water, mate. Something's in the water. Maybe something's in the air. Tolog na ako. Alright. Good night, Denma. I'm gonna continue reading. So, I know you guys are probably a little tired from watching somebody's streams, from Rob's stream. Wait, hold on. I gotta ask Rob, what did you play? Tirso didn't do the shout out. Let me give you a shout out. There you go. You were playing Astroneer. I can see why Denma was talking about holes and loving holes. That makes sense. Alright. I hope you had fun. I've never played Astroneer. I would love to try it out. Is it scary? Is it just space? Is it just space? If it's just space, I guess it's fine as well. I love sci-fi. Although I love fantasy more than sci-fi. Alright. We're reading this story called... What the fuck is this story called? This story is called My Wife Has Been Peeking at Me From Around Corners and Behind Furniture. It's gone from weird to terrifying. Alright. So again, if you just rated, thank you so much. Welcome to the stream. My name is Andy, and I do variety streams. But mainly I play Genshin, and then on Thursdays we play horror, and then there are lots of times where we just chill and hang out. Like tonight, I'm reading scary stories. So if you are tired from Rob's stream, I totally get it. It's fine. You can leave or lurk. But if you would like to vibe and listen to me read scary stories, feel free to stay or lurk. All good as well. All right. Suddenly, I heard a muffled sound, and I pressed my ear against the bathroom door, straining to listen. I couldn't hear anything, but I envisioned Lynn standing on the other side of the door, giggling at her joke. I felt a surge of anger. I was beyond pissed at being made to feel scared in my own house, and made to hide in the bathroom for an hour. All for what? Some joke? It was as if a joke. If it was a joke, it was an awful one. What the fuck, Lynn? I snapped. This shit is getting really fucking annoying. Wow, he's really mad. He's like swearing. I waited for her to apologize or to call me a jerk, but instead I hear a faint moan, so quiet. I wondered if I heard it at all, and then complete silence. Jesus, is she getting off at this? Lynn, I called out, not able to even hide the shakiness in my own voice. I got no response, just my own heavy breathing. I swear to God, just fucking stop it, I yelled, pounding my fist on the door. I waited for her to cuss me out, something I would expect from me talking to her like that. I never screamed at her before. But there was nothing, just the occasional drip from the shower head. I won't deny that I was scared, too afraid to open the damn door and face my own wife. I waited another 30 minutes or so, which feels like a fucking lifetime even when you're scared. I finally decided I wasn't going to spend the night hiding in my bathroom, so I got down on my knees and peered under the door. I almost expected to see her face peeking back at me, but thankfully, I didn't. I could see straight down the hallway to the top of the stairs, but no Lynn. I didn't know if I should be happy about that or not. I looked for a few minutes, waiting to see her head pop out over the top step, but never came. I stood up, my hand hovering over the door, and mentally prepared myself to open it. I slowly turned the lock with shaky fingers, and was about to yank it open when I heard the sound that still makes me feel nauseous when I think about it. A moan, louder than before, but this time as I was able to tell just where it was coming from. I turned my head to the closet door as if in slow motion and locked eyes with my wife, who was peeking out at me from the slight gap. Her eyes were still wide as ever, and her mouth was hanging open in the most grotesque, gaping smile I'd ever seen. I didn't even scream. I was too scared for even that. Her hands were clasped to her chest, body trembling with sheer delight, as if she could barely contain her excitement. A short, raspy moan bubbled up from her throat, a deep and raw, sending a shiver through my whole entire body. Somehow I found the ability to pull the bathroom door open and run as fast as I could all the way down the steps, snagging my keys and phone from the table in the living room before running outside to my car. I could hear her shrill laughter behind me, but I didn't hear her getting closer. I didn't bother shutting the front door. I drove away from the house faster than I legally should have, shivering the entire time, either from fear or the cold, maybe a little bit of both. I hadn't grabbed a coat or even a pair of shoes. I was still in my boxers and my hair was still damp. I drove straight to my brother Chris's house about 40 minutes away, ignoring any and every call and text I got. I didn't check my phone until I was safely parked in my brother's driveway. Lynn had called 4 times and sent a flurry of texts, all wondering where I'd gone and why I left like that. I threw my phone at the dash in rage, furious at her nonchalant attitude. My brother and his wife were surprised to see me, especially dressed in just a pair of boxers, but they told me to stay as long as I needed. Chris lent me some clothes and asked me what happened. I told him Lynn and I had a fight, but didn't get into the details. I didn't want him to think I was overreacting, leaving my wife over a prank, even if it was a strange one. Hadn't I encouraged her for years to lighten up instead of being so serious all the time? I had wanted her to relax and loosen up, but this was definitely not what I had in mind. I tried to sleep in their sofa, but my brain wouldn't let me sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Lynn's face staring up at me from inside the closet. Knowing she'd been in there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. And being let in sounds realistic. Does it? Or is that sarcastic? Does it sound realistic? I'm just riding the waves of the story. Knowing she'd been Knowing she'd been in there with me the entire time made my skin crawl. She never left the fucking bathroom at all. Instead, she slipped inside the closet and slammed the bathroom door shut to fool me. The mere thought of going back home gave me anxiety. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Chris ended up giving me a sleeping pill, so I was able to get a little rest. My sleep was filled with terrible dreams, all of Lynn's smiling face. I woke up just as the sun started to rise. My sore body ached from the sofa and I felt drained. I knew I'd had to call Lynn at some point, but I didn't know what to say to her. I wouldn't be going home unless she gave me her word she'd never do any more creepy shit. I just wanted my wife back. Her serious, normal self never looked so good to me. I was contemplating calling her and telling her that when that familiar feeling came over me, I was being watched. I was staring at the ceiling, my heart in my throat. I didn't want to look away, but the longer I ignored the feeling, the worse it got. My eyes drifted away from the ceiling almost on their own. Her face was pressed up against the window beside the couch, staring down at me with that same gaping smile. Drool dribbled down her lips, leaving 2 long streaks down the glass. I didn't know how long she'd been in there, but something told me she'd been there for quite a while, possibly all night. Shit. I didn't bother screaming, though I was afraid anger trumped any fear I felt at the moment. I jumped out from the couch and pounded my palm against the glass. "Lynn, are you crazy? What the hell is wrong with you? Just go home," I shouted. "Now!" She didn't move, and her ghastly expression never changed. If anything, her smile only grew, as if she had never been more elated. I could hear Chris and his wife moving around upstairs, as if Lynn could hear them from her place outside. Her head twitched slightly in their direction, and she began to close her mouth slowly. Chris called my name from upstairs, obviously concerned. I turned to see him and his wife Rebecca hurrying down the steps. When I turned back to the window, Lynn was gone. The only sign she'd been in there at all were the two streaks of drool still dripping down the glass. I tried explaining to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical. Who wouldn't be? Chris and I went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there were no footprints in the dort. I woke up late getting ready for work. How the stories been, chat? I read 2 of your stories, Waffle. I'm going to read your 3rd one for the last part of the stream. So if you can stay a little bit, you get to hear me read your 3rd story. Ooh. I tried explaining to Chris and Rebecca about waking up to see Lynn watching me through their window. They were skeptical. I mean, who wouldn't be? Chris and I had went outside to the spot in front of the window, but there were no footprints in the dirt, just a slight indent. Animal, probably? Chris guessed, and I didn't argue. He and Rebecca assumed that I dreamt the entire episode, but they didn't understand, and I was too tired to explain it to them. I called out of work that day and turned my cell phone off. I didn't want to face Lynn. Just talking to her was too much for me at that point. I really started to believe that something was irreversibly wrong with her, that no matter what promises she'd made, we'd never be the same again. The thought saddened me to my core. I cried most of the morning. By noon, I figured I was ready to confront her, give her one last chance to explain herself. I could at least give her that after 6 years, I told her. I turned my phone on and saw the dozens of texts she'd sent me, all from a seemingly concerned wife. "Can we talk? I love you. Please call me. I'm really worried. Can you answer? Just come home." And more of the same. All texts telling me she loved me and she wanted me home. How worried she was. Not a damn one addressing this crazy shit she'd pulled. Like she hadn't been acting like a character from a Stephen King book. Even her texts were different. Normally she texted novels just to tell me to pick up a loaf of bread. You'd think she'd have more to say to me after her bizarre shenanigans. I know it probably seems childish to some of you who are miles away from the situation, but if you saw the way Lynn had looked at me, how she scampered away on all fours like some wild animal, grinning at me from inside the closet like a lunatic, then I think you'd find my reaction was warranted. I ended up staying with Chris and Rebecca for another night. I didn't wake up yesterday until afternoon, and thankfully I didn't see Lynn's face watching me through the window. I don't want to pry because it's not my place, but is this fight something that can't be mended? Rebecca asked. She made us both a sandwich for lunch, and I knew she wanted to breach the subject without seeming too noisy. I don't know, she's like a different person, I said, choosing my words carefully. Still wasn't ready for her or Chris to know the full extent of the batshit craziness I had been dealing with. People change, Ben. But she's still the same woman you married. Maybe both of you just need to talk through your issues. Whatever's going on, I'm sure it can be fixed, she said, ever the peacemaker. I think it's beyond that now. I don't think talking would help. I just don't trust her, I said. The words stung in my heart. I missed and loved my wife, but how could I live with someone like that? Living in constant fear didn't sound too appealing. Lynn loves you. She has to be absolutely crushed, she said. I don't know about that, I said. Well, she certainly seemed like it to me. I've never seen her so upset. Very much unlike the Lynn I know, Rebecca said, shaking her head sadly. It took a full minute for her words to really sink in, and when they did, I felt dread worming its way through my skin. Wait, what do you mean? You saw her? You saw Lynn? I asked, my mouth suddenly dry. Rebecca nodded casually as if the fact wasn't nightmare fuel, or maybe for her it wasn't. I need a drink. She stopped by this morning just after Chris left for work, she said, cleaning the plates from the table. I didn't see her car though. Maybe she took an Uber or something? Beck, what did she say? Did she come inside? I asked, sweat starting to break out of my forehead. I began looking around, examining corners as though a predator lurked behind them. No, she just asked if you were awake, and I said that you weren't. I asked if she wanted me to wake you up, but she said no. She said just to let you sleep. She said as she washed the dishes. That's all? She didn't say anything else? No, she looked awful though, like she hadn't slept in days. I think you should call her. I got up from the table and thanked Rebecca for the lunch. I felt a little bit better at the knowledge that at least she hadn't come inside. Still, I needed to double check that the doors were locked. I sat for a while trying to figure out what to do next. I didn't want to go home, but I felt that I owed it to Lynn to help her if I could. Hadn't I sworn an oath to my love? To honor her through sickness and health? Clearly, she was very sick. If she was sick, which I truly believe... Okay, Jesus. I'm starting to mess up my words. If she was sick, which I truly believed she was, I had to try and get her the help she needed. But I didn't even know where to start. I didn't want to call the police, and besides, what the hell was I going to tell them? That my wife was peeking at me? That she was being creepy? As bizarre as she'd been, she still hasn't committed any crime. Not yet, anyway. The police would have probably said that I was overreacting, but this wasn't some prank. It felt wrong. Dangerous even, like something sinister lurked beneath her smile. I knew as her husband I was well within my rights to have her committed, but what if she simply acted normal in their presence? She'd obviously been able to fool Rebecca into thinking that she was just a concerned wife. As long as the doctors didn't find her a danger to herself or others, they'd have no choice but to release her after 72 hours. I felt lost and overwhelmed. So I did what any husband in my position would do. I called her mother. I didn't want to, believe me. Her mother, Marianne, and I were never on the best of terms. We'd never fought or anything like that. She just wasn't a very warm person and wasn't really easy to get along with. She hardly ever smiled, and when she did, only her lips would move into a thin-lipped smile, leaving her eyes as blank as before. She gave off this aura that felt like she was permanently on the offensive. Wait, I need to crack my back. Let me know if you can hear this. That crack was crispy. All right. I'd only met her twice, and on both times were such short visits. I got the impression that she didn't approve of me or her daughter. Lynn always ushered us out quickly, but as she didn't want me to feel uncomfortable, which I was grateful for. Being in her mother's company felt almost unbearable, like walking on glass. I was glad that when we moved 3 states away, I was glad when we moved 3 states away so we didn't have to see her often. I was happy to avoid the woman, but I needed her help. I really didn't want to talk to her at all, but I had to talk to someone, and someone who knew Lynn better than I did. I heard the first one? Ooh, nice. Yes, she answered, already sounding irritated. Marianne, it's me, Ben. Do you have a minute to talk? I asked. I could hear her clucking her tongue. I could hear her click her tongue in irritation. I'm in the middle of writing some checks, but if you insist, I suppose I can spare a moment. What is it? What is it that you want to discuss, Benjamin? She said, coolly. It's about Lynn. She's been acting strangely, and I was wondering if you had any idea whether there was something? I quickly interrupted. It's a bit difficult to follow your ramblings, Benjamin. Like, what is it that you want from me? She asked. I could almost see her standing there in her thin sweater and slacks, tapping her fingernails impatiently on the table. I wanted to know if you'd ever notice any odd behavior or possibly any mental health issues, I asked. There was a long, uncomfortable pause that I couldn't tell was because she was just thinking or something else. Finally, after a few seconds, she spoke. I'm not sure if this is one of your jokes, Benjamin, but if so, I don't find the humor in it. Now, I do have business to attend to, as I've said, so if you don't mind, she said, but I cut her off before she could get rid of me. Marianne, this is not a joke. I'm seriously concerned about Lynn's mental health. Her behavior has been very erratic lately. I'm very worried about her, and I figured as her mother you would be as well, I said, my frustration evident in my voice. If you're truly concerned, then I suggest you get the health professionals involved. I don't know what you expect of me, she snapped. I could tell that she was seconds away from hanging up, and for some reason I was desperate not to let her. I had the feeling that she knew a lot more than she was letting on. Please, if not for me, do it for Lynn. I tried. I heard a faint, shaky intake of breath, as if she were trying to hold her steely persona together but failing. Marianne, what's wrong? Benjamin, I don't know what to tell you. My only advice would be to seek professional help. Do not call here again. Goodbye. I tried to call out to her, but she hung up. Ooh, the mother knows more than she's letting on. Maybe she was just keen to get rid of the wife of Lynn? Damn. I tried to wrap my hand around the call and her refusal to help me. Even if she didn't like me, why wouldn't she want to help her own daughter? I couldn't understand that. I tried to replay the conversation, desperate to find something I missed. After a while, I almost gave up. Until I remembered her last 2 words to me. Seek professional. Her last words to... Until I remembered her last words to me. Seek professional help. She'd said those words with a bit of urgency. I could have just been grasping at straws, but no. I was sure her voice had changed ever so slightly when she'd said that, as if they were very important. I don't remember this part of the story, really? Well, now you're learning more. All right. What had she meant? I assumed that she'd been referring to medical professionals, but maybe she was referring to someone else? Someone that she didn't for some reason feel comfortable saying directly, or maybe I was just desperate. I waited for Chris to get home, and after a very long and exhausting conversation with him and Rebecca, I convinced them that Lynn truly needed psychiatric help. I didn't tell them everything. I wasn't prepared to go into it yet, but I told them about our last encounter, how she'd hidden in the bathroom peeking at me from the closet. They were obviously shocked, but thankfully they believed me. They too just wanted to help her. Still, they didn't think it was all that serious. Weird maybe, but not dangerous. They just kept saying that Lynn had to be playing some kind of weird joke. Maybe for her YouTube? Rebecca offered, if only half-heartedly. Chris didn't think that we should involve the police just yet. He offered instead to go with me, and I readily accepted. He reasoned that calmly talking to her, trying to coax her into going willingly, was the best recourse. I agreed to do it his way. At least I wouldn't be going into that house alone. We drove over this morning, just after breakfast. There was no way I was going at night. When we pulled into the driveway, my stomach began doing somersaults. Her car wasn't there, but I still didn't let my guard down. The front door was ajar, and for a split second I thought that we'd seen her eyes staring through the gap. I was shaking and starting to sweat. Chris, however, was fine. He waited for me to open the door, his hands in his pockets like he was going to fucking stroll through the park. Like he was going on a fucking stroll through the park. I envied his ignorance. I pushed the door open and was immediately hit with a stench of rot. Chris smelled it too. He walked in the house behind me with his nose scrunched up. What do you guys use to clean the floors around here? Shit? Chris mumbled. Shut up, I said, my eyes darting around for any signs of Lynn. The house was deadly quiet and dark despite being 10 in the morning. All the curtains were closed up tight, refusing to allow any sunlight inside. If I hadn't left in just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house had been If I hadn't left it in just 2 days prior, I'd have thought the house was abandoned. We moved through each room, carefully checking any place that she might hide, occasionally calling her name. Why the fuck are you looking from under the couch? Chris asked eventually. Aren't we looking for your wife? He was looking at me like I was a moron. Let's go upstairs, I whispered. He shook his head, but followed. On the way up, my shoes crunched over pieces of glass that looked to be littered over a few of the steps. I noticed that one of Lynn and my wedding portraits had been hung on the wall alongside the staircase. I noticed that one of my wedding portraits with Lynn that hung on the wall along the staircase had been smashed. The frame hung crookedly, all the glass removed. I stared at the picture, a lump forming in my throat. We had taken the photo just after leaving the church, after saying our vows. She looked so beautiful in her white gown. I looked at Lynn's beautiful face. I never dreamed her face would ever be the source of terror for me. We climbed the rest of the steps and checked on the spare bedroom, but it looked completely untouched. I was hesitant to go into the bathroom, my fear from that night coming back to me all at once. Chris noticed and offered to go in by himself, but I couldn't let him do that. So we walked in together, checking the closet and the shower. The bathroom looked as if it hadn't been touched since the night I left. I don't think she's here, Ben. Why don't you go pack some clothes and we'll try coming back tomorrow or something, Chris said. I nodded and went into our bedroom and shoved some clothes into a duffel bag. When I checked inside our closet, I came across the source of the smell and gagged. Chris took one look and lost all color in his face. He had to go stand by the stairs and get away from the sight and smell. I gazed down in shock at what lay inside my bedroom closet. Soaking into the rug were at least a dozen eyeballs, all carefully laid out in pairs. Some were as large as a quarter, while others were as tiny as a marble. I stared down at the eyes she'd collected from small animals and wondered how she'd gotten them, and shuddered at the thought. Man, I thought I had it bad with Becca's shoe addiction, but fuck me. Your wife's been here collecting eyeballs? Chris said, gagging. Ben, I think we should go, he called from the hall. I'm getting nauseous. All right, I grabbed my duffel bag and shut the closet door on my new nightmare. I stepped out into the hall and took a deep breath of air. I could taste the rot on my tongue, and I couldn't help but gag. Who the fuck lines up eyeballs in the closet like that? Chris mumbled. I tried to tell you she needed help, I said. She doesn't need help, Ben. She needs a fucking exorcist, he said. You coming or what? I can't stand the smell any... His words died in his throat, and his eyes grew wide with fear. I didn't ask why. I could feel it. Someone was watching me, and I didn't think it was the eyes in the closet. I turned around, my eyes slowly scanning the bedroom. Christ, I whispered as I finally saw what we'd missed. Under the bed, curled on her side, watching us with the excitement of a kid on Christmas morning, was my wife. She held her hands together under her chin, and they were shaking eagerly. Now that she knew where she'd been found, I could hear the quiet noises that she was making, a sort of hiccuping sound in her throat, as if the excitement was just too much for her. It was unnerving to say the least. My dog's barking. Wide eyes, and that girl. Wow, I love that she's just trying to break the silence. Give me a second. Let me mute for a second. All right, we're good. Wide eyes and that same huge smile. Everything in me told me to run, but I forced it away. This was my wife. No matter how twisted she was still the woman I married. I had to help her. Lynn, I said softly. She didn't respond, but her head bobbed back and forth in two quick little movements as if she were nodding. Baby, I just want to help, okay? Can you let me do that? I asked. I had taken a single step forward, approaching her like some kind of dangerous animal. I love you, Lynn, I said softly, taking another step closer. She let out a tiny moan escape her wide open mouth, and I had to resist the urge to run. Her shoulders were starting to quiver, and her eyes grew as large as saucers. I crouched down so I could see her better, and I immediately saw the blood, her hands covered in it. Oh, sorry. They trembled the closer I got, as if she was barely able to contain herself. Lynn, are you hurt? You're bleeding, I said. She bobbed her head again. Her bloody fingers moved up and down as if playing an invisible piano. They occasionally grazed her chin, leaving smears of blood on her skin. Yeah, this story is really long. Is the dog ambience? Yeah, I guess it's ambience. My dog is like barking at something outside. All right, give me a second. Let me adjust. Where was I? I wanted to recoil in disgust. The smell that was coming off of her was revolting. I could feel the vomit trying to climb up my throat. Her lips were dry and stretched thin, blood seeping between the cracks. I knew she wouldn't come out on her own, but I didn't want to leave her in the state she was in. I scooted closer and reached out to her. The excited, hiccuping sounds got louder, and her hands shook, fingers flexing. It was then that I could see the blood oozing from between her fingers. "Oh my God, Lynn, are you bleeding?" I said. Instinctively reached out to take her hand, but before I could even touch her, her hand sprang out towards me. A sharp pain shot through my arm, and I fell back on my ass. My arm burned, and I could see the blood dripping down into the carpet. I looked back at her in shock and saw her grinning madly, her fingers clutching at a large shard of glass. "You all right in there?" Chris asked from behind me. I turned my head slightly and nodded to him, cradling my arm to my chest. When I turned back to face Lynn, I saw that focus had shifted. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She wasn't smiling anymore either. She was staring past me, her eyes glaring at Chris, the way a hungry lion might stare at an antelope. Her mouth was still hanging open, but it was twisted into a snarl. I got to my feet and began walking backwards down the hall, afraid to take my eyes off of her. "Are you bleeding?" Chris asked. The moment that the words left his mouth, Lynn started fast, scooting out from under the bed, the glass shard still in her fist. "Run, Chris, run, go," I yelled. He must have been too afraid to move, because a second later, I felt my back bump into him. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, staring at the horror that was my wife. Lynn had crawled completely out from under the bed and stood in the bedroom doorway, her face twisted in rage. Her whole body was visibly tense. Blood ran down her fingers and onto the floor. "Jesus, Lynn," Chris said. "You, playing hide and seek?" I reached back and pushed him towards the steps. "Move your ass, Chris," I said quietly as Oh, why did I yell that? That was like Dumbledore saying, like, in the book, he calmly said, what was it? "Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?" And then in the movie it was like, "Did you put your name in the goblet of fire?" It was like that. Let me try again. "Move your ass, Chris," I said as quietly but firmly as I could. Lynn bobbed her head in fast, sharp motions and began to grin, stretching her mouth open wider and wider so that her chin seemed to touch her chest. I heard Chris mutter a prayer, and then he was running down the stairs. I stood at the top of the steps, stuck between the love for a woman who clearly needed serious help and self-preservation. "I only want to help," I said, choking back tears. Her eyes focused on me once again as she slowly lifted her glass, holding it out in front of her, and then she started sprinting towards me, grinning with utter excitement. Thankfully, my body took over and I flew down the stairs, skipping 2 or 3 at a time. I made it to the front of the door before I leapt onto my back, wrapping her arms around my neck, her open mouth next to my ear so that I could hear those terrible hiccuping sounds up close. I shook her off me, knocking her towards the floor. I felt a searing pain on my back as she went, but I tore open the front door and bolted to my car. Chris was standing in the front yard, talking on the phone with the police. I didn't say a word. I just ran to my car and jumped in. Chris took the hint and followed me, still on the line with 911. I watched the rearview mirror, sure I'd see her there running after us, but I never did. I went straight to the ER and I got 11 stitches on my arm and 3 on my back. The police asked a lot of questions and went back to the house to do a search, but of course, Lynn wasn't there. They advised me to stay with a friend or relative for a while and to file a restraining order as soon as I could, but none of those things would matter. Somehow, I just knew. I dropped Chris off at home and went to a motel an hour away. I wanted to put as much distance between me and Lynn as I could. This is where I had been for the past 4 hours. I thought maybe the police would find her. Maybe they'd get her the help she desperately needs. But I now don't think so, because 40 minutes ago, I got a text from an unknown number. Just 3 words. "I found you." And a picture attached. The picture was dark and grainy, but I instantly knew what it was. There was no mistaking. It was my wife's eye. I started typing this out immediately after. I don't know what to do. I'm alone and scared, and I can't help but feel that I'm being watched. Jesus Christ, that was so scary. I mean, it was really long, and it was really scary, but like, damn, it was really good. Sorry. It was good, it was scary, but damn, it was really long. It was so long. How long did that story take? How many hours has it been? Wow, I guess we have time for one more story. And a good thing, Waffle, I hope you're still here, because we are going to be reading your story, The Darkness. It's a long one. It's a long one. It's really good. I really liked it. I remember reading it that one night in my bed, and I was just like, "Fuck, damn!" It gave me the shivers down my spine. So again, before we read the last story, if you enjoy stories like this and would like to like experience different horror stories that happen in real life. So these are not fiction, but actually happen in real life, and enjoy the a fun time. Then I suggest you go listen to the frightening, alarming real life tale show. And I guess we could take one little break so that I can like chill out for a second and that I can breathe a little, because like I need a break after that long story. So we're gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we are going to be reading the final story of the night, a story called The Darkness. Makdo break. Not the Makdo break. Alright, we'll be right back. I hope I play the correct ad. If not, I'm just gonna change it. It's fine.
Oh, snap! Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more The Andrew Tops right here on Twitch.
Hello?
Hello.
Who's this?
You tell me your name and I'll tell you mine.
I don't think so.
What's that noise?
I'm typing. I'm actually getting ready to record a podcast.
Really? What about?
Oh, just some podcast that talks about real life scary stories.
Oh, you have a horror podcast? What's the scariest story you know?
Well, if you want to know, you're gonna have to listen.
What's it called?
It's called the Frightening, Alarming Real Life Tales Show. We're actually going on our second season.
So you got a co-host?
Yeah, I host it with my best friend. Speaking of, she's actually here. Hold on. Hey, Beb.
Hey.
Listen, we'll record later. I'm kind of on a call right now.
Oh, don't take too long. Our guest is waiting. We gotta interview them.
Alright. Bye.
Bye.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
Because I want to know who I'm looking at.
Get ready to shit your pants with fright.
And listen to the frightening, alarming, real-life tales show out on Spotify,
Apple Podcasts, and on all major podcasting platforms.
This Thursday on the Andrew Tops Twitch.
If he comes in,
Find out what's gone Andrew like this.
I'm dead. So scared.
Get ready to be startled, scared, and terrified in an all-new Farts Horror Night. Every Thursday, 9:30 p.m. Philippine Standard Time, right here on the Andrew Tops on Twitch.
Achievement in luck. You just entered the booty hole.
Sweet niblets! The Andrew Tops is live right now, here on Twitch.
Alright, hi, we're back. I don't know if Tirso was paying attention, but that ad contained his iPhone 5C. The phone that I broke. Well, it was really old, and I guess the heat was like too much, and then it broke. You sure you're not getting secret Disney checks? Oh, I wish. I wish I was getting secret Disney checks. I used to have this dream where I wanted to be just like a Disney Channel, like somebody, like I just wanted to be a Disney Channel child star, and like I just wanted to like do that. I really wanted to have like a show like similar to The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, or maybe like Hannah Montana or something. I love that. And one of my favorite shows, and I'm still watching it right now actually, is That's So Raven. I'm actually watching Raven's Home. Seasons 4 and 5? Oh, sorry. 5 and 6? Basta the last two episodes, the last two seasons, like released recently, and I was like super excited. I watch it every night before I go to bed. What would your show be called? I have no clue. I know that they don't. I don't know. I'll probably in the future I'll try to make one. Like I'll try to make a legit show. Like it's like a one-man show. It's not a musical, but it's like a on top of it. Oh, that's genius. What would the premise be? Like this guy who seems to have like it would be a story about this kid who tries his best to organize a world that's just chaotic. I have a feeling it can be like that. I'm listening but heading to work. All right, Waffle. You take care while going to work. All right, here we go. Time to read The Darkness by the Waffle King of Pluto. All right. Jesus, you scared me. All right. There's something about the shadows of this city. Dusita, the lawless city of sin and corruption abandoned by the government. The sinners and the corrupt are not free from justice. The darkness is simply a myth that's believed to deliver justice to the wicked. Ooh. It towers as a 7-foot-tall human-like being. It's covered from head to toe in all black with the exception of its glowing white eyes. It carries a black sword and shotgun on its back, which leads some to believe it's human. However, it is far from it. I saw it the night I was mugged. There were 3 young men with rifles, yelling at me to give them my money. Knowing I was going to be walking, I left my cash and cards at home. Despite emptying my pockets, they don't believe I don't have any money. Suddenly, a police car arrives around the corner. I'm saved, I thought in my head. But then the 3 opened fire without hesitation. At this point, it was clear I was not going to survive this encounter. These young men had death in their eyes. There was no way I could outrun their bullets, and their patience was running out. I closed my eyes in anticipation of the barrage of bullets. I heard one go off, but I felt nothing. I hear a loud bang, not one of their guns. I open my eyes and see one of the young men on the ground. He seems to be missing his head. The other 2 now have eyes. Now have fear in their eyes. Shoot, I lost my place. The other 2 now have eyes of fear. But what were they afraid of? I turned to see a dark figure towering over me with a menacing gaze. The shock and awe made me fall to the ground. As I did, the remaining young men opened fire on the being. Bullets seemed to be absorbed by the dark entity. Unfazed and unflinching, it stood. When the 2 finally ran out of bullets, the being of darkness had 2 shadowy tendrils launch from its back, grabbing the men. One is thrown high into the air, and just as swiftly as the being pulls a sword out and stabs over it in the heart. The deadly creature then raises its bloody sword in the air. The thrown man lands on the sword and impales him. He towers the sword, causing the impaled man to slide off. What? Basically solves everyone else's problems, but when it comes to his own, he struggles. Damn. This being is badass. I'm just saying. All right, where are we? He lowers the sword, causing the impaled man to slide off. I sit paralyzed by the fear as the nightmarish soul looks towards me and says, "Remember this day. Remember that only the wicked need to fear the darkness." With that, it turned and disappeared into the shadows. The three bodies became surrounded by darkness and vanished. It erased any evidence of its actions that night, except me. I rose to my feet and ran home as fast as I could. I got inside, closed and locked the door. Did I really just witness the mythical one known as the darkness? Fear soon turned into relief, and then to feelings of comfort. I no longer fear what lurks in the shadows. Ooh. Ooh, scary. Ooh. I kind of like that story. It was about like the what you would think is the big bad of the story actually turned out to be good. And hey, there is just something about like the darkness being comforting. Sorry. Yeah, like there's just something about the darkness being comforting. And I guess that's what Waffle was trying to say in this story. And maybe, just maybe, the darkness is hot. I don't know who said that. What? Why would you guys say that? Please. We live a tall, dark, and handsome man saving us from certain death. That's hot. What? Who said that? You guys, please. Stop being horny. Alright. I like that story. Good job, Waffle. You get a clap for that. Oh, I'll end stream after this ad. Damn it. He is kind of hot. Kinda. Yeah. That's hot. I entered that in the Halloween contest at school. And how was it? Did you win? Oh, there's an ad. You probably can't see me. Give me a sec. We'll come back in 3, 2, 1. Oh no, an ad. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Waffle. Alright. You entered it in a Halloween contest in school. And how was it? Did you win? Super Weenie Hut Juniors. Let me know when you're back. Over. Alright. How was it? Did you win the Halloween contest in school? Did you win it? Did you win it? Did you win it? You're not gonna lie, it reminds me of a book where a guy sexes a demon after nearly getting killed by it. Honestly, mood. Mood. I did. I didn't win, but got a sticker. Oh, that's cute. Cute sticker. Alright. You guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's, and it was put on the main campus. Oh, that's nice. Congrats. Your stories got like exposure. Love that for you. Alright. Again, if you guys enjoy scary stories, we have the Frightening, Alarming Real Life Tale Show. It's a horror comedy podcast, so it's not as, the creepy vibes that we have going on tonight, but it's rather like really light, and it's meant to be enjoyed, You know, we do get serious sometimes, and sometimes we speak a language that you can't understand. But for the most part, it's English. So if this is something you enjoy and would like to consume, I do hope you give it a listen. It's out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on all major podcasting platforms. And also, I'm inviting everybody to the finale of the Frightening, Alarming Real Life Tale show. It's the season 4 finale, and we are going to be going up against one of the big bads. You can see him like right over here. This is the big bad. It's Jack Wells. It's my VTuber self, or rather like my like that. It's that person. It's the one that I use for my PNG tuber. I just rode past a Jeep with an Umbrella Corp on the side of. Oh. Did you know that that Umbrella Corp logo is actually like really like it's real? It's a logo for an actual company, I think. Fact check me on that. I wish I could have gotten a picture. Yes, finale, but he's so cute. You know, yeah, Jack Wells is so cute, but you know, he's actually the big evil. And we're going up against him in the farts finale. Find out how we're gonna do it, because Jack Wells is voiced by me. So find out how it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Find out. It's gonna start at 9:30 p.m. Philippine Standard Time. So if you're not from the Philippines, go put it in a time converter and convert the time. Also, you might hear chickens. We're gonna have a bunch of people joining us during the live. So we have Denma. You can see her at the other side of Jack Wells. We've got Elsie Quinn Cyrene, Ade, Ninya, of course, my co-host, and Tirso. All of these people are gonna be here during the Farts live, the Farts season 4 finale, the Frightening Alarming Real Life Tale show season 4 finale, live here in my channel on Twitch. 2 p.m. GMT. There you go. There's that. If you're in New York, this will be 9:30 a.m. So, if you're down, if you're like, wait, is it East Coast? Is it West Coast? East. Yeah, if you're Eastern Standard Time in the US, it's 9:30 a.m. And then if you're not from New York or whatever, just like convert it to, you know, Central Time, or, you know, like just, or Western. Yeah, you do that. All right. With that, I guess it's time to end today's stream. Oh yeah, by the way, you guys, Andy, you look evil on the poster. I do? Do I look evil? Wow. What makes you think that? Do you think I'm evil in the poster? Evil? Really? I don't know. It could be a clue as to what will happen on the day. I mean, I probably not. You know, it's probably just my eyes. You know, like it's giving like weird. You know, like I've discovered something, but you know, like, you know, you're probably just being way too observant, and there are probably no other clues in the poster. There's probably no code in there somewhere, you know, that you can find, and then like it will give a clue as to what will happen. Also, there's this. Do you hear that? It's a rat. Anyway, it's time to end the stream tonight. Hello? You guys, thank you so much for coming to the stream. I hope you enjoyed today. We are definitely... Oh, end stream. Peak comedy for ketchup packets. What? I can't even... Fine, okay. You won't even let me finish my end stream shit. Okay, fine. Bye.